Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside the very distracted Justin Frederick and Ryan Gerdes down at the end. If you are a landlord or going to become a landlord, you're going to want to text the word landlord to 623-AZ-RECON. That's landlord to 623-AZ-RECON. Before I get into the stats about evictions, because evictions here in Maricopa County are up, and I think the automatic response from listeners are going to be like, yeah, that's why I'm not going to become a landlord. Everybody's evicting people, and you only evict people if they're not paying their rent or whatever the case is. I want to go back to COVID. And I'm not going to say that it taught us, because all of us have investment properties and we've been investing, but it really was a good reminder for us of the importance of finding the right tenant, paying attention to what they do for a living, what industry that they come from, because during COVID, if your tenants were in one of those, I'm not going to call them protected industry, but an industry that can withstand a pandemic, you typically didn't have any issues. Oftentimes, landlords, especially maybe if the house is vacant for a month and they're just not well versed in the process, they just look at the dollars and cents. They look at the offer. They look at what that tenant is going to be paying for them, per month in rent, but not paying attention to the rest of that criteria. And so for me, COVID was a really stark reminder of that. Pay attention to whom you're renting the home from. But anyway, so we have just learned that last month, landlords in Maricopa County, and if you are out-of-state listener, Maricopa County is our biggest county in Arizona that makes up the city of Phoenix, Tempe, and so forth. Landlords filed 7,903 evictions. That seems like a lot. And Metro Phoenix eviction filings for all of 2023 hit just over 83,000. It doesn't cause alarm for me whatsoever. It's just a reminder of going through the right process and crossing your T's and dotting all your I's when selecting that tenant. Just don't necessarily go for that first person without doing your due diligence, because in the end, that can cost you a lot more money.
All right, so since you love your phone, Google how many people live in Maricopa County.
All right, I'm on it.
All right, because you're gonna run into some very interesting numbers here. When I read this article, this is exactly what I did. So, do you have it up yet?
No.
All right. You had no problem just moments ago.
Yeah, 4.552 million.
4.552 million.
That was as of 2022.
So 4.552 million. Okay.
I feel like we need a
And then
whiteboard.
multiply that by 43%, because roughly 43% of the population rent.
All right.
I'm bored already.
4552000
Yep.
times 43%.
Yep.
0.43.
1.944 million.
Okay. So that is how many people are renting, and then divide that by 83,172. Come on.
I'm using decimals here because my
Well, yeah, you're punching
so it's
it.
20.
You're
It's
punching
23.
You're punching it in wrong. The rate is at 4.7%.
Oh, I had to go. Yeah.
So 4.7% of rentals are experiencing eviction. What else do we see that is 4.7, roughly?
The
unemployment.
Unemployment.
I was about to say
So-
the Arizona Cardinals winning percentage.
That was good.
Thank you,
That was very witty.
That was quick. So it's almost a direct reflection of what unemployment is. Now, you take the default rate here in Maricopa County, and what are we looking at? Not even 2%, right?
Yeah.
Right? So what that tells me is that the people that are mostly being affected with unemployment are people that are renting. And so when you kind of wrap your head around that, and there's two questions, right? One is from an investor standpoint. What do I do? How do I vet these tenants, right? So I'm looking for what type of business that they've been working for, right? So if they're working for some mom and pop shop that's been around for 1 or 2 years, you better proceed with caution. I'm looking for somebody who's been with a company, or that's with a company that's been around for a while, the ones that are going to be able to stand the test of time. What that also tells me is if I'm a renter, then I need to get out of that bucket. I need to figure out a way to go be a homeowner, right? Because that's going to incentivize me to get a better job, do better at my job so I can get promotions, maybe get better education so that I can go get a higher paying job in a different industry. Whatever the case may be, it puts me over into that bucket. So I'm not only at the mercy of a landlord, but then I'm also building wealth in real estate. So I found those numbers to be interesting. So if you go back and rerun your numbers, you're going to find that 83% or 83,000 is going to equal right around 4.7%.
I got 4.3.
Okay.
All right. So what are the industries, Ryan and Justin, that you like? What are the industries that you shy away from? And like, for instance, and would it behoove you to, like, first responders? They're going to be around. We've learned that COVID taught us that, and people in the healthcare industry.
Yep.
Would it behoove you to maybe discount $100 a month if you know that somebody's coming from a very, very strong industry, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to take a little bit more money, but this couple, they're both servers, at a restaurant.
Well, then you're discriminating, right? I mean, then you might come up with some issues.
Fair housing has nothing to do with occupation.
Okay.
They're starting to make rumbles about that because there was a case study many years ago where a gal was selling her home, and the buyer came through, said, "Hey, I'll pay cash, full price." And she took a look at it, Googled him, found out that he was an attorney. She hated attorneys, and she declined the offer. Got sued for fair housing because she made it very clear, I'm not selling to you because you're an attorney. I don't like you.
Wow.
And so that attorney sued her and lost because fair housing doesn't cover vocation. Wow. So, but to answer your question, I 100% say yes. Yeah. You cannot buy a good tenant.
So healthcare and education are one of that area that doesn't have an impact on the economy.
And if their income suffices, education as well.
Well, that's what I said.
Healthcare
and education.
Oh, my bad. Apologies. Yeah. I love educators, healthcare. I love insurance. And then tech. Oh, man.
Tech.
Anything that's in the tech world, because even though they lay off and fire all the time, there's another 15 companies knocking at their door, and more often than not, they get to work from home. So even if they get a job out and across the other side of the valley, they're still going to stay at your property for a longer period of time because they're working from home. Just got to make sure you have good internet.
So we were talking last week about unemployment numbers, and we were talking about how the jobs that were created, there was 114,000 jobs that were created, which was an extremely low number. But 58% of that was healthcare and education. So that's why the economists were like, well, this is a problem. All the other jobs that are left are affected by the economy, and that's why these numbers are so low. So absolutely, I agree with you.
All right, if you are a landlord or a would-be landlord and you'd love to have a conversation with us about our processes and our systems when we are vetting tenants and the type of tenants that we are looking for, go ahead and text the word landlord to 623-AZ-RECON. That's landlord to 623-AZ-RECON. Props to you, Ryan, because even though watching Justin go through the math exercise was somewhat painful and stressful.
He's our numbers guy.
Yeah. I am, but I'm...
Call Justin to get pre-qualified, right? No. But that's the point of headlines. 83,172 evictions in 2023. If you just read the headlines, you're like, holy crap, that is terrible. The sky is falling. The Phoenix real estate market is crashing, and don't go invest there. You always got to follow the numbers, and you got to dive into the numbers, and always be careful, what you read.
Yeah, I had a buddy from Vegas call me up, and he's like, dude, I just saw your guys' evictions filings come out. That's insane. And I was like, well, you're in Clark County. You know what I mean? You guys, you hardly have a million. You don't even have a million people living in Clark County. So we were talking apples to oranges. Follow the numbers. What would it come out?
4.31.
4.31. And so my apologies. I was thinking about 4.7 because that's right around where unemployment is. But yeah, we're what, 0.4 of a difference between what unemployment is versus what the eviction. I'll take that. I mean, I see so many people rolling up a stake and going to the casino and this and that, and they have 1 out of 100 of walking out of there with income from it. Walking into being a landlord and having a 4.31% chance that I have to evict somebody, I'll take those odds every day.
And with that, if you're thinking about, okay, well, Arizona, hey, I can go to Alabama, Mississippi, and I am not familiar with the Landlord-Tenant Acts there. I'm not familiar with the eviction processes there. I'm just throwing out these states as an example, going, based on just focusing on the numbers. Could you get a piece of real estate cheaper? Sure. Could you might cash flow a little bit better? Maybe. But you always got to take a look at the laws that govern tenant and landlord relationships. For me, when someone says, hey, I'm thinking about investing in a different state, you better check out the eviction process. My cap rate might be higher in California if I buy something in California, but it could take me 12 months to evict somebody if they're not paying their rent. And that's the one thing that I love about Arizona. I mean, you pretty much could get it done within 28 to 30 days.
Well, and I think that we were so spoiled for so long. The cost of living here was so much lower relative to so many other big cities. And then COVID hit, and then, of course, we've had a handful of things happen between COVID and a bunch of big, huge companies moving in here and bringing in jobs. And that increased not only the price of real estate, but it increased the rental rates as well. So a lot of these people were over there $800-900 a month to rent, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. I mean, you're not getting that in any other city or any other state that has a significant population. So I think that it's just it's a natural progression, and I think that those people are either going to pivot or perish. They're going to get better jobs, or they're going to, like we talked about, get better education, and start working, and or just getting off their ass. We've seen so many people just being lazy, and it has nothing to do with oh, there's no jobs out there. Yeah, if there's no jobs out there, if you're never going to go looking for them.
Yeah.
And so I think that plays a lot into the numbers, and then of course a lot of these numbers come from apartment or Section 8 type of housing. So you just have to take it with a grain of salt.
All right, if you are a landlord looking to be a landlord and would like to get a little bit more experience and knowledge and learn a little bit about our strategies when it comes to being a landlord and managing tenants, go ahead and text the word landlord to 623-AZ-RECON. That's landlord to 623-AZ-RECON. All right, I'm going to ask each one of you quickly just one tip. There's a whole system to qualifying a tenant. Okay, we get that. But what's one of the big ones that you do you're looking at when selecting a potential tenant? Going through the screening process or the interview process?
I would say, I don't necessarily do anything that's so different. I mean, I'm looking at their income, I'm looking at their assets, I'm looking at, if they have pets. Now, I know that we're not allowed to talk about service animals, but guess what? Service animals cost money, right? And so if they have 3 or 4 service animals and they have 6 kids and they're, and only one income in the house, even though that income may equal 3 times the amount, because I use 3 times the amount of the rent. So if it's $2,000 a month, then I want to see a gross income of $6,000 or more. So then I'll run their credit, do a criminal background check up on their employment, etc. But I would say probably the most important thing that I do is that the moment I've selected them or said, hey, look, I'm willing to do this, I always say, let's meet over at the property. And I want to shake your hand, look you in the eye. And I let them know that I'm going to be the best damn landlord that they've ever had. But the moment that they start screwing around with either the contract or the home, I'm going to be the worst landlord that they've ever had.
That's a great idea.
And I do
I
that with
like that
all of
idea
them.
to go meet them. I don't do that because I want them to feel welcome. But the way you approached it is very welcoming. It's like,
Well, you've
you know,
gleaned
this is my
insight
house.
into Ryan's parenting skills.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
yeah.
going to be the best father that you've ever had, but the moment you start screwing with me,
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to go bad fast.
And I'd like to shake their hand too, just so they
Yeah.
could see who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I look at assets. I'm a big believer in assets. I believe that it can get you out of a lot of trouble. It can keep you afloat for a long time. So I'm a big believer in assets. I'm not so much into credit scores if, you know, there was something that and typically with a credit report, you know, you can see there's something that happened. But I'm really into assets.
for me, I think one of the things that, and it amazes me that's overlooked, you know, when hopefully the application that you give your tenant asks for references, but there's a lot of people that aren't calling the references or leave a message for a reference, don't hear back from them right away and feel that pressure. Call their employer, find out what you can about the security of their job and the longevity of their job and so forth, but try to get hold of past landlords, find out whether that landlord, oftentimes landlords shouldn't and won't divulge a lot of information. But if they're not divulging a lot of information, there might be a clue there. But I always follow up with the question: would you rent from them again? And most landlords are going to be honest. It's a simple yes or no. And so, take the time, follow up with those references, because if you have a problem with a tenant and you have to evict them or they cause a lot of damage, you're going to kick yourself for not going back.
And I've dodged, another thing I've dodged a couple bullets on is I've stalked them on their socials. I've just type in their name, and if they're over there, clearly partying it up all the time, and every other picture is them, getting smashed at a party, then that should be just take any and all information you possibly can.
Become a private investigator for a moment.
Yeah, it takes no
All
time.
right, if you're a landlord becoming a landlord looking to invest in real estate and want to learn more about our screening processes and systems, all you got to do is text the word landlord to 623 AZ Recon. That's landlord to 623 AZ Recon. All right, Ryan, it is your turn. It is Friday.
My special day.
It's your special day.
All right. And so my topic of the week is your favorite sports bar and why. So, all right, Justin, I'm going to hit you first.
All right. I'm going to pick Charlie's on 83rd and Union Hills. It's just it used to be a pizza joint, but I love this place because it has off-track betting.
I love off-track betting.
Yeah, and the staff has always been incredibly fun, welcoming, just great atmosphere in there. They got TVs everywhere, and that's important when you're going to a sports bar. But not only can I watch a football, baseball, basketball game, but I can also
Australian breakdancing.
they're good. They're good.
They're real good.
But I can sit down and enjoy some good food, good company, and watch all the sports and bet all I want. And
Cool.
I really enjoy that place.
All right. We've been doing this for years now and known each other for many, many years. I've never said this, and you're going to find this as a surprise. I actually don't like sports bars. I much prefer a good old-fashioned...
Sorry, I didn't hear. Maybe I didn't hear you correctly.
I don't like watching multiple sports at the same time. I
Hell is your
don't like...
problem?
You love football, though.
I love divey bars. Don't get me wrong. I love bars.
Yeah.
I love bars. I'm just not a huge sports bar fan. But if I had to select my favorite, would be Kimmy's. And the reason is, first of all, the wings are phenomenal. The service is great, and so forth. But it's right across the street from my house. I can walk.
Yeah.
I can, and I do. I can
That's
walk
important.
there, and I can walk back. But I'm more of a, when you and I go to the divey bars, that's where I feel at home.
Sure.
I do too.
So my favorite, and I'm along the same lines. I like something locally owned.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've gone to the Zips. I've gone to the Twin Peaks. I've gone to those different places. But my favorite is Santisi Brothers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Santisi Brothers is a
Yeah.
great one. I used
Yeah.
to. When I lived closer, that was just an incredible
They
place.
have tons of massive screens. They have a whole wall, almost like you're
Yeah.
at a sports book at a casino. Because I like going to sports books at casinos, but I'm not really a gambler. I do like off-track betting with the ponies, just because I did that all the time growing up with my grandfather. So like just going over there and handicapping them, I feel is not as riskier as blackjack and stuff like that, and I don't get bored with it. But they have all these massive screens. I mean, their beer is 0.1% degree away from being frozen. Like, it is cold ass beer,
and they're massive.
and they're massive, and they have a ton of different options.
And their wings are
and
amazing.
all their food is amazing.
Yep.
Up to and
Remember
included.
this time, Ryan and I go through this all the time. We go get wings, and I like spicy stuff, but I have my limit. Wait a minute, you and I
know
went through
exactly
this
what he's
together.
gonna say.
But he took me to Zantisi's, and he's like, "Dude, stop being a wuss. We're gonna get the hot." And when you and I went to Twin Peaks last week, and our mouths were burning,
Yeah, it was awful.
like I ate more wings than you.
yeah,
But those, whatever they were at Santisi's, dude, I couldn't
You
handle
were
it.
sweating like a two-bit whore in church, dude. So that's my answer. That's
that's a good one.
That's it for the week.
All right, well, we're not 100% sure that you care, but we appreciate you tuning in. And if you're in town and you want to experience the sports bar life with us for a night and take us drinking, feel free to go ahead. And if you're looking to become a landlord or a landlord, go ahead and text the word landlord to 623-AZ-RECON. That's landlord to 623-AZ-RECON.